Hello, Jon Roa. You are a technician of Project REEBUS, and today you will be my guest in our little talk about science and private life. Welcome. It's nice to have you here.
Yeah, thank you.
My first question is, you're a technician, so you are not a scientist, but you work in science together with all the scientists. So that means that your schedule is basically, well, the same. You also have to go to research cruises. You probably also sometimes have to work early, late, or in times when others may not need to work usually. So maybe tell us a bit about what your job involves. What does a technician do, and what does that mean for your working schedule?
So my job is like to basically run samples that we take during the cruises, but also like partial, like part of my time I have to dedicate it to prepare cruises and of course like be on research vessels. And that's, for example, quite time consuming because right now I'm preparing a cruise which will take place in June. And like my analysis in the lab is stopped because we have to invest time on like packing, like preparing lists, paperwork, all of this stuff that cruise involves.
So that means that you also have to spend times on ships, which means you can't really be at home. So first, I would like to know, what kind of a position is a technician? So is that like full-time, part-time? Is it more or less? And if you have this schedule that's kind of very scientific, close to the science schedule, how diverse is your time that you can have to spend maybe apart from your home?
Yeah, so of course during the cruises, like I have to be away, and then as a technician, I think that maybe I have like more fixed schedule, but from time to time, like things are getting like we are in a rush or something like that. So that means that we have to spend more time in the office preparing things. Or also like when an instrument is broken, like sometimes that is not related with cruises, like when an instrument is broken, we have to spend like long time in the lab, like checking things, and we have to like stay there for long. So that's like when for example, my 8 to 4 schedule is like broken. That's like when problems comes. And of course, like when I have to go on cruises, also when we have to, I don't know, like pick up stuff from other institutes, something like this, maybe we have to travel on weekends, which is like usually we don't work on weekends. So that's, yeah.
And working as a technician, is that in your case, a full-time position with a fixed contract?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot it. Like, so it's my contract it's not permanent position. It's run by a project. Usually, like every 3 years, a project is coming up, and then I'm placed on that position. So I'm already working for several years. It's not permanent, and it's always like full time because like the instruments in the lab, they require a lot of hours. So I cannot go there for a few hours and then come back because like an analysis usually takes like 6 to 8 hours. I have to start the instrument in the morning and then leave in the afternoon. So it's full-time position.
But that means you also have no permanent position. So you always have to kind of see whether you get a new contract or not. It's always a lucky guess.
So I always have like a deadline in the horizon. Luckily, so far, I got contracts. Usually they were coming like 1 year in advance. So if a contract, let's say like it was ending up in 2020, like by 2019, I already had like a new contract for the next 3 years because a new project was coming up. So it's like, it's not permanent, but so far I didn't have a thing of like my contract is running out next month and I still don't have like a new project that I'm placed in.
And this is the blog about how well science and private life go together. So obviously my follow-up question would be, how is it in your case? Are you in a partnership? Do you have a family, kids maybe?
Yeah, so I'm in a relationship. In like right now it's like distant relationship, although we can like from time to time meet. But for the moment we don't have any family, any kids. Maybe in the future we're planning it, but right now the situation is not the best for both of us. So that's why one of the reasons that we might not have a family.
And then is your partner a scientist as well?
No, she's working in completely another field.
Because my question is, of course, how much of this situation at the moment is created by the structure that is science, by the structure that is a scientific life, or a life in your case that is connected to science?
So, for example, of course, we have to think always on my side when I have like some cruises ahead. So we have to plan that, for example, on that month I will be away. We won't see each other. We cannot take holidays, or we cannot visit her family or something like that. So we always have to think on my situation, like my future cruise situation, in terms of like planning our like not for the moment like a family, but like personal plans, like meeting people, going on holidays, something like this. Because, for example, her job is like let's say like a normal job. Like she goes to the office, then she comes back, and then it's like from Monday to Friday, and she doesn't have to spend like long terms like as we do, like on a ship, like isolated or yeah.
And do you think it would be possible for both of you to work in science, or do you think that this is only possible because this is only you and she has a, let's say, rather normal job?
Yeah, I think for her, like her field is not related with science at all. So I think it's like she couldn't join any of jobs that could be available, like for example at my institute at GEOMAR or at university, which is also science. I think she wouldn't fit on that like kind of jobs.
The question is, would it be possible if both of you had that kind of a job? Would it even be possible to have a relationship that is stable, or is already the structure in science made in a way that makes it very difficult for both to be in science and work in science?
So I think it would be challenging, but if like we really want to stay together and like try to like adapt ourselves, our schedules, it should work. Of course, depends also on the science that we do. If we do like a science that it's every time on the institute, but if we have to go to like research vessel expeditions, experiments in other countries, then it will start like escalating. It will start going more difficult. But I know people that both of the persons are in science. Of course, it's difficult for them. But I think, like in my personal opinion, if both of us, we try especially to organize this, I think it's also like a problem that you need to some kind of organization. It's not like, as we said, like this typical work from Monday to Friday. You need to program things in advance, which is also related with science, because in science, you cannot be like spontaneous, or like sometimes you cannot be spontaneous. You have to program everything. So I think it's like we could try to do it. And I'm pretty sure that it should work, but of course it's like more challenging, as I said.
And when it comes to your contract situation, how much or how safe do you feel in case you want to maybe start a family, have kids or such? Is this something you would still be open to, or do you think that this is some sort of a burden that you can't really plan your future?
So, yeah, I mean, of course, it's not as easy as a permanent position. But right now, my situation, if I would like to have a family or like plan something like in the future, I would go for it, because, of course, as I said, it's not as safe as a permanent position, but like running with projects which are coming like with some time in advance, it's always giving me some safety in terms of, okay, the next 4 years, I will have like a job, and probably like in 3 years or so, I will already have like news from a new project. So yeah, it's like from 1 to 10, I would say like it's like an 8. It's not like a 10 where it would be a permanent position, but it's like quite safe, or quite, it's giving me kind of like safety.
And when it comes to you being on research cruises, because that would also probably continue in the next projects, if you had a kid at home, how would that work? I mean, would it require for your partner to quit her job, or like how would you handle things? Is that a challenge?
Yeah, so I think that's the most difficult part, because in that case, my partner, she should try to be more flexible at work. I don't know if like quit is like so extreme. It should be so extreme, but of course she should like take maybe some time off, or like reduce the working hours, or ask for some flexibility at work. Like if she could like work from home, for example, so she could take care of the kids, especially the first months. I think, yeah, like, of course, because if I'm away, I'm like, I cannot like help with anything. I could just help online, which with a kid, I think doesn't work at all. It's not like Corona that you could like do things online. So yeah, I think like all of the work would be like 100% on her. And of course, if she has a full-time job, it will be very, very difficult for her. So she should need like the help of another family, like her family, my family. So I think like the grandparents in that case, like they would like play a role. But I think like one person alone, it's very, very difficult to handle.
And how much flexibility is there within your job to say, hey, look, I have a kid now, and cut back and just do part of this? Is that even possible? Or is it required in your job that you do all these things, that you go on the cruises and there's just not that much of choice?
So I think that I always have a choice to say, no, I cannot go to this cruise because of personal situations, because of a kid, not in my case, but if a kid, or if I have to take care of like someone that is having an operation for my family, I can say, okay, in this month, like my mom is getting operated, and I say, I cannot go. So I could say these things, but I think in long term, like my position says that I have to accept that I have to go at sea from time to time. So I could not say, no, I'm not going at sea at all. Maybe we could like talk with my supervisor and say, okay, maybe we reduce the hours or the days that we go on the cruise. Maybe I'm selected for short cruises, like short cruises, I mean, from 1 to 2 weeks maximum. And then long cruises, we leave it for later, like when the kids, it's more independent. And then we like 4, 5, 6 week cruises, maybe it's a bit too much. But yeah, like in our contracts, our task is to go at sea, apart of like doing the analysis. So the flexibility in this term is like not so much.
And that also sounds like science influences your life a lot because you work in science. So how much time do you have for yourself as well? Because this is not just about family, it's also about you time, right? About having one's own time, maybe leisure time activities. How much influence is there from this science part also into your private life, maybe for yourself?
So in this term, I think I'm quite lucky because I can organize myself. I can organize the analysis in the lab. So if a day I have to like leave earlier from work, I can go also earlier and start the analysis earlier. So that's for me, a big advantage, that I can be flexible in my job. I don't have to be there because I have customers, for example, like in another jobs. I can like I have an instrument that has to work for me. So I go there and I start the instrument, I do the analysis, and then I finish. So in that terms, like science, it's an advantage for me. It's not affecting my private life. It's like on the other time, it's like making my life kind of easier because I can like organize myself better. Luckily, I don't have to work so many weekends. So like from Friday until Monday, I have all the time for meeting friends, going to see my family. So yeah, I would say that working in science in terms of flexibility, at least in my position as a technician, as my like personal position, it's quite an advantage. I know that people that they are scientists, they have very high working load, and they have to spend hours and hours, and then they cannot meet other persons because they say, I'm writing my thesis, or I have a proposal that has to be handed at the end of the week, so I have to be like awake until 12 and then wake up at 6 and then write. But yeah, as a technician, I think it's kind of easier because you can organize yourself in an easier way.
Yeah, so that sounds actually quite nice. Yeah, so what would you say overall, altogether, with all the disadvantages and advantages, how well does your current job situation work for you?
So right now it works. I like it. I like, as I said, this flexibility that I can organize myself. But on the other side, of course, like this thing of having like contracts, like every 3 years, for example, is not giving me as much safety in a like money situation or work situation. As I said, I always have like a deadline on the horizon. which is always far away, but at some point, at any year, this deadline can come closer, and then at some point it can stop, and then I have to either quit science, or I have to look for a job in another like group or in another institute. So yeah, it's like private life that's at this moment is fine, but it's always like with this thing on like this fear on the horizon that this project situation will maybe come to an end, and then yeah, a problem comes.
Jon Roa, you are a technician in Project REEBUS. Thanks for being with us today. It was very nice and interesting.
You're welcome. Thank you.